Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us today for the complimentary ICMI webinar, Create Better Customer Experiences, Why the Modern Contact Center Must Go Omnichannel, sponsored by Genesis. I'm Erica Strother-Maroy, Community Specialist here at ICMI, and I'll be your moderator today. Before we begin, I just want to go over a few announcements. First, make sure you disable your pop-up blocker if it's on. You'll notice there are several icons at the bottom of your console window. The first allows you to see the presentation slides, so make sure this one is maximized. Next, you'll see a Q&A icon. We'll be saving some time today to answer audience questions at the end of our webinar, and you can participate by submitting your question at any time throughout the presentation. All you have to do is type your question into that window and then click Submit. Now, if at any time you experience technical difficulties during the presentation, you can click the question mark icon on the console to access the event help guide. Clicking on the other icons you see on the console will give you access to speaker bios, more information about our sponsor Genesis, as well as information about upcoming ICMI events, resources, and research. I do want to let you know that this presentation will be made available for on-demand viewing following our event today, and you'll receive an email within the next couple of days giving you instructions for viewing the recorded presentation. You can also download a PDF version of our slides shortly after the presentation directly through this console. And now it's my pleasure to introduce our speakers for today. I'm joined by a panel of esteemed customer experience experts. Here representing UPMC Health Plan is Ann Palmerine. I'm also joined by Sheila McGee-Smith, founder and principal analyst at McGee-Smith Analytics. Chris Horn is here on behalf of Genesis, where he's senior manager of product marketing. And last but not least, we're joined by Justin Robbins, community services manager here at ICMI. Now, as I mentioned earlier, you can learn more about each of our speakers by clicking on the speaker bios icon that you see on your console. And one final reminder before we begin, please be social and share what you learned today. You can access your Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn accounts directly through this event console. So we encourage you to keep the conversations going and share what you learned. And with that, I'd like to turn things over to Justin, who's going to get us started.
Great. Thank you, Erica, and thank you everyone who's tuned in for the webinar today. Where I want to get started is this idea of omnichannel, this word that if you're anything like me, it seems that it's been circulating around the contact center industry. It actually seems like it's been circulating around really any industry that's interacting with customers and has really picked up momentum in particular over the past year. And as I have conversations with members of the ICMI community and attend industry events, there's all of these questions around what does omnichannel really mean? Is this something we really need to be paying attention to? Is it something that we can actually achieve in our organizations? And more importantly, how does this idea of omnichannel help us improve our customer experiences? How does this help us improve as an organization, achieve our key objectives, and whether that's improved efficiency, whether that's increased revenue, or just improved value that's generated by the contact center? Or maybe for some of you, it's how do we gain better insight into our customers, their experiences, and how we can continue to advance ourselves and better serve them as an organization moving forward. And so the question that I'm hoping we can uncover today, and the question I'm sure many of you come here to understand is what is omnichannel really, and what does that mean for us as customer service and contact center leaders as we seek to provide greater customer experiences? So what I'd love to do at the start of this is just share some recent research that ICMI has been a part of and we've conducted, and what is that saying about customer experiences and channels today. And then I'd love to invite the experts that we've included on today's webinar to get their perspectives and have them provide some insight to all of you on what they think these trends mean for the future of the contact center industry. And so to get us started, I want to take a look at what is the state of the customer experience today. And this is one of those cool things that I think we struggle with, but it's also really interesting to think about as customer service professionals. Is this is not only what we do as a profession, it's not only our day in and day out of our career, but we all are customers. And so the very problems that we go out to solve within our organizations are the very same problems that we're plagued with. And one of the first steps that really jumped out to me as we were preparing for this conversation on Omnichannel and creating great customer experiences was this finding from Harris Interactive earlier this year, where they said that 1 in 5 consumers have said that in the past 6 months of working with an organization, they had a negative customer experience. 20% of your customers are saying that in the past 6 months they had a negative customer experience. And on top of that, Harris also wanted to find out from those customers what do those bad experiences mean for you and the decisions you might make moving forward. And a frightening majority of them, 86%, said, you know what, if we've had that bad customer service experience, if we have the ability, if we have the option of switching companies, we're very likely to do so. And I stop at those stats, and the contact center, the customer experience professional in me says, this is a problem. This is something we need to do something about. This isn't sustainable. And the customer in me said, yeah, I know what this is. This is frustrating. This upsets me, and this is every day with some of the organizations that I do business with. And so it presents incredible opportunity for us as contact center leaders to face these challenges head on. And we're also equipped with incredible insight already as consumers on some ideas and things that we can do to overcome the probability to reduce the chance of our customers having bad experiences with our organizations. Some other things that ICMI knows from research that we've conducted with the industry is we know that 100% of you on this webinar today are saying that, yeah, we believe that agent morale, agent satisfaction, that has a direct effect on the customer experience. That same customer experience that right now 1 in 5 are saying isn't so great, and that over 85% are saying that would cause them to go to another competition. 100% of you recognize that the agent themselves have a direct effect on that experience. But in spite of knowing that, in spite of all of us sitting here knowing that we say, yes, agent morale, agent satisfaction, that affects the customer experience, ICMI's research also uncovered that about 3/4 of us sitting here today, we're aware of something that right here, right now, is preventing our agents from providing the best customer experience possible. And that could mean a lot of things. For each one of us, it could be something different. And for all of us, it could be one underlying drumbeat that's driving consistency. But the fact remains is we know the agent can affect the customer experience. We know that 1/5 of our customers are having or had a negative experience in the past 6 months. We know that the majority of them would leave given the choice because of those bad experiences. And so the question I start asking, and the question when I sit with leaders of these organizations, is what is that thing for you? What is that thing that's holding the front line, holding your agents back from providing the best possible customer experience? Because I believe that many of us don't intend for that to be the case. I believe that most, if not all of us, want those agents to be able to provide that best experience. And so the question, and where Omnichannel fits in, and where we're going to get perspective from our experts, is how does Omnichannel, how do customer expectations, how do they come together, and how can we effectively meet those needs to deliver great customer experiences? And the other challenge we need to kind of look at squarely and recognize that's here with us today is not only do 3/4 of us know that something's not enabling the front line to providing those best customer experiences. Not only are 1/5 of our customers having bad experiences with us, but this environment that we're in, it's not going to get any easier. We know that 62% of contact centers that they expect to increase the number of agents that they have supporting multiple channels. We also know that 73%, so again about 3/4 of contact centers have said that there's a noticeable increase in the complexity of customer contacts. And look, I ran contact centers for a long time, and I know what this is. I know that we have so many channels today, and some of them we're supporting, others our customers are using. We don't necessarily have insight into all of them. So we've got customers who go lots of places. We have systems that monitor and enable or maybe disable our ability to understand and drive insight and analytics into all of those different places. And what the result is a lot of messy stuff, a lot of valuable information that's disconnected or hidden. And so how do we find simplicity in the complex? How do we make it so that when our customers contact us, the experiences that they're getting in the modern contact center are truly meeting their needs, are in the channels that they want when they want them? That we as leaders have the insight and the wherewithal and the ability to understand what's happening in those channels, affect them, and drive great outcomes. And so that's our job. That's what we're here to find out. That's why we have to look at Omnichannel as the next way for us to truly achieve these great customer experiences. We have to look at these sources of information, all of these bits of data, and find a way to create simplicity out of what's in an increasingly complex environment. And if you're up and ready for the challenge, you'll have amazing outcomes on the back. Your customers will thank you. Your employees will thank you. The business outcomes as a result will have others thanking you. And so what I'm really excited about is the fact that we have three incredible experts here today in Ann, Chris, and Sheila, and that they're going to be able to give us some of their perspective on some of the trends that we're seeing, some of the things that are coming in this environment and this trend that we're really looking at Omnichannel. And hopefully what we find out is really Omnichannel is what multi-channel was meant to be all along, for our customers to interact with us at their given touch point and for us to provide effective service. And so with that, I want to start with our first question. And Chris, if you don't mind, I want to direct this one at you first. And so at ICMI, we're often asked the question, how is Omnichannel any different from multi-channel? And so I'm really interested, Chris, in you first. How would you answer that question?
Sure. Thanks, Justin. So this terminology has certainly been an area of great confusion in the past. Frankly, I'm not even sure when each of these terms should be hyphenated or not. As with all language, it's a matter of how people are choosing to use these terms that shapes their definition. In my experience, multi-channel is simply referring to the ability to engage with customers across multiple channels. So whether that's through online self-service or a mobile app, or through the IVR and contact center. With multi-channel, there's no assumption that the service is offered or the information received on different channels is integrated and consistent. And there's no assumption that the user can seamlessly switch channels and not lose context along the way. So that's covered by Omnichannel, which looks at the big picture by layering in these additional requirements. So I characterize with Omnichannel, the goal is for customers to receive consistent service across all channels and to have contacts managed across those channels to support seamless switching. So as an example, an airline reservation that started on a mobile app should be resumable on the company website or through a call in the contact center. Now, Omnichannel is typically also associated with journey management and analytics, where we're tracking customer interactions that are part of broader journeys and then proactively working to help customers reach their goals. So a lot of confusion comes from the fact that there's significant abuse of these terms in the industry, with many technology vendors claiming to deliver omnichannel when in reality their channels are still handled in silos. So for example, voice interactions are prioritized and routed separately from the handling of emails and chat. They're typically not tracking interactions across channels to proactively manage journeys. And there's not a single desktop available that's empowering agents with the omnichannel customer history and the context that's needed to improve service delivery. So while multi-channel is the predominant reality today, as most companies have deployed channel touchpoints as standalone technologies, omnichannel with consistent customer experience management across channels is the aspirational best practice that's quickly becoming the expected norm.
Great. Thank you, Chris. Sheila, what are your thoughts?
So obviously, Chris has done a great job of sort of outlining all differences, the major differences between omnichannel and multi-channel. And it took primarily a customer focus, which is where the focus should be. But there's another area that we can look at this from, another vantage point, and that's from the agent's vantage point. Agents need to have a better knowledge of what customers have been doing in other channels than often they do today. So the multi-channel world that Chris described leads to an agent not knowing that an email came in right before the phone call that they're on, or the email that there's been 14 emails and suddenly the customer is calling. So this notion of context, the context of the journey that the customer is on, again borrowing a phrase from Chris there, and delivering that to the agent is part of this notion of omnichannel versus multi-channel. Another thing that Chris said is we're all customers, right? I know that I've been on the phone with an agent and said, can you email that to me? Or can you SMS that telephone number or that tracking number to me? And more often than not, they don't have that capability because it is a multi-channel and not an omni-channel world. So the best case scenario, and again, that aspirational best practice, as Chris said, that we're looking for is an agent's ability to communicate within a single interaction over multiple media. While on the phone to send an email, while on a chat to be able to send an SMS, while on a video chat to be able to co-browse. So to me, this is an agent angle to omnichannel as well as that customer angle.
That's a really great point, Sheila, and I'm glad that you brought up that agent angle as well because that is so important. So Ann, I'm curious in your perspective as someone running a contact center today, what are your thoughts on omnichannel versus multi-channel?
Well, I agree with everyone so far, but one of the other perspectives that is really important about omnichannel is it allows you to manage the contacts at the customer level. So if you have a team that's your gold team that serves your gold customers, they can interact with those customers in the way that they want to. If they want to call, they call the gold team. If they want to chat, they chat with the gold team. They send an SMS to the gold team. And where this became really important to us was because we have a personal concierge for every one of our members. So when the member calls in, we work to get them connected to their concierge, or when they chat, to connect them to their concierge. So it's more looking at the member or the customer experience versus the channel that they're using.
Great, that's awesome, and I love hearing examples of us giving those choices, enabling our customers to use the channel that they prefer, because ultimately what research continues to show us is that's what customers want. We think, again, of each of us as customers, that's what we want. Ultimately, we just want to be able to communicate how we want to be able to communicate. But the reality is that isn't easy, right? If we're being transparent, that isn't easy. And so this next question I'm going to direct to you first, Sheila. What are the barriers facing contact centers when it comes to delivering that omni-channel experience?
So I think the biggest one is dated contact center applications, right? So if we look back over the last few years from a financial perspective, there was a pretty bad financial period between probably 2008 and 2012. A lot of systems that perhaps might have been upgraded as the needs of customers changed, as more smartphones, for example, got out there, as more of a web shopping got out there. Those upgrades didn't happen. Those upgrades weren't possible because there just wasn't the financial wherewithal to do so. So that, to me, is one of the reasons. The applications from the vendors have continued to improve, but often companies haven't been able to do the upgrade even with the equipment that they have, the solutions that they have. The other thing that, again, pointing to sort of the application and hardware side of this is sometimes as the need for a channel came up, let's say suddenly there's just so many emails and we have to find some way to handle email, that a company would choose a bolted-on solution as opposed to integrating voice and email. And that was certainly the case with chat. I mean, very often when when one is chatting with a company online, it's not a representative of the company that you're chatting with. It's a third-party provider who doesn't have that single integrated, view of the customer. So I think, it comes down to investment in the applications that are running the contact center. I think we're seeing that right now as the economy is recovering, that people do have more of a willingness and an understanding that this is the time we need to invest.
Hear, hear. Yeah, when we ask the question to contact center leaders about what's one of their biggest challenges, things that they see as a barrier, it's absolutely technology, and for all of the reasons that you mentioned, Sheila. So thank you for that. Ann, curious on your perspective. Again, what are some of the barriers that you faced or that you see your peers facing when it comes to delivering this omnichannel experience?
Sure. So just to build on what Sheila was saying, you really have to be able to sell those benefits on why that investment is so important and really have a good case to share with your senior leadership and work to gain that buy-in. So, building that case with voice of the customer data and anything that you can will really help. But then beyond that, I think one of the things that we had to learn a little bit, sometimes the harder way, was that having an omni-channel where you want team members to be able to be flexible and interact in different ways, sometimes those are different skill sets. And so you really have to look at what are the skill sets of your current team if you're implementing and make sure that you have the right skill sets. And we had to, in fact, change our recruitment efforts so that we were recruiting people and testing them ahead of time to make sure they encompassed all of the skill sets that they would need in an omni-channel world, that they could, interact verbally with a member, but also in written, through the written communication. And that's sometimes more difficult. We also worked on revamping our training and not just teaching content. We actually teach business writing and how to write so that we make sure that those interactions are as professional as they can be.
Great. Thank you, Ann. So, Ann, this next question, I'm actually going to start with you again. One of the things that we saw through the research, and even one of the stats that I shared earlier, is that contact center leaders are acknowledging that whatever it is, there's various challenges that make it difficult for them to provide the best customer experience. In your opinion, what do you think that thing is? What's holding them back?
Well, the big thing is, taking time to be strategic about the experience versus stepping away from some of those day-to-day fires that we continue to fight. So you have to make that time to be strategic and look at what is best for your customer experience and have those conversations and do the research that you need to do to make that happen. And that takes a lot of commitment. So you have to do that. The other thing that I think is really important in accomplishing this is spend enough time and energy on the voice of the customer. Really listen to what they're saying. Get into the details. Listen to the comments. Find out as much as you can to bring that voice of the customer forward. When it comes from you, it's not as powerful to your leaders as when it comes directly from the customer. And really acting on those the feedback that you receive and working to drive those improvements. And that's where, you'll hear about integrating some of these different contacts that people have where they want to have a seamless experience.
Yeah, and one of the things that you said that I couldn't help but smirk a little bit, and I'm sure other people listening to this webinar did the same things when you said spending all this time running around putting out fires. And I remember my days in the contact center, and I can count, I actually don't remember any day that didn't have that happening. And so you saying the importance of us taking time and being strategic, because the reality is like those fires, those things are always going to be, they're always going to be there, especially if we don't take the time to step back, be strategic, think about our systems, our processes, the tools that we have in place to finally get ahead of it. So glad that you said that. And mentioning voice of the customer, really, really, really glad to hear that as well. Sheila, what are your thoughts and your opinion on what might be holding these contact centers back?
Well, certainly Ann's comments about fighting the day-to-day battle really resonates. Another thing that we find is organizational issues in businesses. It's easy to say omnichannel, but if you look at any size business, mobile apps may be are typically handled by a completely different organization. Social may be handled by marketing. You can go on and on. There are support functions that are handling certain types of responsibilities. So it's these organizational issues that sometimes have to be broken down before the technical solution can even be viable. One of the trends that we're seeing is a new title under which all of these functions have at least some kind of dotted line responsibility. So you're seeing Chief Customer Officer or Chief Customer Experience mandates that are helping to break down some of these barriers. But these silos are very real, and they take quite a bit of time to break down.
Yeah, the organizational piece of this, as you said, I mean, it takes time, but it's absolutely worth it in the end. And those who have gone through this and have seen the end result can understand that. And it's hard to see that sometimes from the perspective of this is what lies ahead. Changing organizational structure, changing systems, changing processes, it can be daunting, but the returns are definitely worth it. So Sheila, I want to come back to you with now another question, and actually ask this of everyone on the panel. One of the things that even before this webinar today that I've heard and that I've seen is that system inefficiencies are a challenge for a lot of these organizations. And when you have contacts coming in through different channels, telling that cohesive story, using those different channels, using multiple systems, that's really, really hard to do. So what steps do you think contact center leaders can take to streamline their insight into the customer experience? Sheila, if we can start with you.
So, Justin, I still see a lot of companies relying on daily reports or online reporting tools that require too much time to understand, right? Something that just almost looks like the old green bar sheets of the old computer days just put up onto a screen, or big Excel-type spreadsheets. What really does help companies to see that cohesive story across channels is real-time dashboards, being able to see real-time trends and how they compare to historical measures in a graphical and easy-to-see way. So real-time dashboards have to be customized, right? They have to be customized to the specific needs of a given company. They have to combine not just the contact center metrics, but the business metrics, right? The CRM data, the sales figures, the inventory levels, and how those things are impacted by what's happening in the contact center. Best example I have, a woman I went to business school with took a job at Home Shopping Network, okay? And she was a marketing person. But what was happening on the phones drove the kind of decisions they were making about what was going to be put on TV or how long something that was on TV was going to stay there in real time. So being able to combine, inventory levels in that case, call statistics, revenue figures, and be able to see that in a real-time dashboard would have been great. And at the time, she didn't have that capability. I think those capabilities are a lot more available today.
Yeah, I think everyone on here who spent time with those mind-numbing kind of information inundation types of reports would agree with you. When we can make it visual, when we can make it that real-time, actionable, be able to affect it as it's happening, that's definitely a win for getting that insight into the customer experience. And what are some of your thoughts here?
Oh, sure. I agree, Justin and Sheila. And I think, what it does is you can have that dashboard for your CSRs as well. So you have that dashboard that blends together all of the work that team member is doing. And they can see real-time what they're doing. And we can truly measure productivity. Because when they're in disparate systems, it becomes very difficult to really, truly measure that and seeing what utilization you are getting. So that's where it's a big help. Another component that I feel like is so important when you go down the omnichannel road is making sure that you have customer satisfaction as a function of the bigger picture. And the reason is you want to be able to measure the satisfaction across all of these different methods of contact. And by having that integrated with it, you can truly see, are you giving just as good a service when you when you communicate with SMS versus chat versus voice versus email. So you really, by integrating that, you can ask similar questions. You can do compare. Again, you can have your dashboards and your analytics. But really bringing the voice of the customer to the forefront across all of those channels, and so that you make sure you're doing the work where you need to improve.
Awesome. Thank you, Ann. And Chris, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I'd like to extend a bit what Sheila was elaborating on, such that journey mapping management is really a critical piece of the puzzle to bridge systems and channel silos to drive journey visibility and insight into operational customer experience. So this is delivered through journey mapping, context management, and orchestration, where you're actively tracking customer interactions across channels, seeking to identify related interactions that represent an active journey, and then identify the journey milestones and moments of need within that, and then use that visibility both in real time to improve service, as well as using path analytics on the historical journey data to understand where there's room for improvement. So, for example, to find out which paths taken by the customer are resulting in larger sales, to better understand factors contributing to sales.
I can't emphasize to everyone on this how important and how effective customer journey mapping sessions can be when you get the right people in the room, the right stakeholders around the table, and work through what that experience is end to end. And so I know that there are resources that people on this call have available for that, and I know that you have some, Chris, you and your team have some amazing resources on journey mapping, and there's lots of work that ICMI has done as well. So I really encourage people, if you haven't done this journey mapping thing, dig into it, ask questions. The people on this call, we'd love to talk more about that particular thing, because I can't emphasize how helpful and important that is to really provide this great experience and really get the understanding of what does your organization need to do, where are the gaps today to effectively provide that experience. One of the gaps, if you do that you might find is that it is that technology piece, and it is getting the right platform in for you to really provide that omnichannel customer experience. And so, Chris, I'll start with you on this one, but if I'm somebody in that position right now, I want to provide an omnichannel experience. I know that my kind of Frankenstein bits and pieces of systems that I'm using today are not going to effectively get me where I need to be going. What should I be looking for in a customer experience platform that's going to enable me to provide that omnichannel experience?
Sure. So, and I'd like to briefly expand the question to say a great omnichannel experience is one that's also delivering a personalized and low-effort experience. So, starting off that as a foundation, the first thing to look for is going to be a single integrated platform. So, delivering consistent customer experience independent of channels, departments, and locations requires a unified system of engagement that's sharing interaction history and customer context as needed across the organization. So as this involves a sharing of information across systems, a system of engagement is really a rationalized system of systems that benefits from a single integrated customer engagement platform at its core. So that's the first criteria. And that's going to integrate digital channels, voice capabilities out of the box needed to drive consistent customer engagement. The second criteria that comes to mind is to choose an engagement platform with a single routing engine and a universal queue. So to avoid creating more silos, all interactions from across all channels and locations could be universally managed and prioritized to support blending interactions across channels, and then distributing those interactions to the best fit agent from across the virtualized organization, which could include branches or back office resources. So this also enables consistent SLA management across channels to ensure, for example, that a high-value email isn't waiting past its SLA while low-value voice calls are being addressed first. Third, effective customer profile and context management is absolutely critical for segmenting customers and personalizing engagement. So look for a platform that supports identifying customers early in the process across all channels from web to IVR to mobile and social, so you can better understand their history and predict their intent. So knowing who they are and being able to predict how best to help them is critical for reducing their effort. Similarly, managing and applying agent context, such as their skills and proficiencies, is equally important to matching customer interactions directly with the agents that can best address their needs versus just dropping them in a broad, generalized queue. Next is the ability to orchestrate customer engagement in context of broader journeys to help customers reach their goals. So orchestration is really a big one. Most customer interactions, as we're aware, aren't just a once-and-done operation. Rather, they're steps in a long-running journeys with broader context available. So it's critical to orchestrate the customer experience both before and after the current interaction routing to deliver a great CX. And taking this approach of tracking interactions across channels, recognizing active journeys, lets you identify customer goals and then proactively help them to reach them. And as we noted earlier, this opens the door to applying the journey mapping and other customer experience design approaches to identify customer engagement problems and figure out how to systematically improve them. At last, with all this customer and journey context in hand, it's critical to make it available to your agents through a single omnichannel desktop to set them up for success. So, not having to switch between multiple applications to get the context they need to service customers is critical. And based on that orchestration capability, just as Sheila noted earlier, you can also coordinate multimodal engagement with orchestration, where you're using multiple channels concurrently to reduce effort. So as the platform is aware of all of the open interactions for the customer, so if they've emailed us twice, they're currently on the website, and now they're calling in, the agent can resolve these multiple related actions at the same time while offering a co-browse session to show the customer how they can address their needs through self-service in the future.
That's awesome. Thank you, Chris. Sheila, what are your thoughts? What should contact center leaders look for in that omnichannel platform?
So Chris has covered very well the notion of a single integrated platform that allows for omnichannel from the agent all the way through to the application. There's another side to it in order to really be able to integrate the application into the business, and that's developer tools that allow companies to access and combine the real-time data from relevant sources in their business. So yeah, we need to have an integrated solution from the omnichannel application, from routing and reporting and queuing. But we also need to be able to inform that application with data from the rest of the business. And so, judging a new application or a new vendor for your contact center based on the developer tools that they have, and not just the tools, something like a sandbox, right? An area where the company, the application provider, creates an area where you can test your applications, not in real time on your running system. And when you think about the different things that you need to tie into the contact center, you need to tie in web applications. You need to perhaps tie in retail information. A great example, last time I had to replace my phone, I went into the phone store after having been on the phone and on the web and creating an appointment. I walk in there, and the person at the phone store has an iPad in her hand. I give her my cell phone number. She knows everything that I've done on the web. But the ability to combine what I did on the web and make it available to that retail person, that takes development tools. That takes more than just being able to run your own application. So I think that's another area where customers should look at that capability from the vendors that they work with.
So really great points so far. Single integrated platform, those developer tools that allow us to kind of experiment and test and innovate. Anne, what are your thoughts?
I would agree. Where we started and where I think it's most important to start is have a vision. Think about what is the vision that you want to have for your customers, and really be thoughtful about that before you even look at systems. And essentially demand that you find a system that meets that vision and what you want that experience to be. And, if you really work at it, you can find ones that can work and leverage and really make that come alive for you. And by really staying true to that vision, it has really helped us create an experience that people feel just so connected with their concierge. But we were adamant that they have that personal connection, and we stayed true to that, and that's what helped us.
Great point. We can't make these decisions. We can't pull the trigger and know where we want to move forward until we have that vision and that understanding of where we want to go and what our end is. So really, really glad that and excited to hear that that's what your team did and that was the piece of advice you chose to share with everyone. Really, really cool stuff. So say we're thinking about this and we've got people, again, we're right now we're figuring out, okay, we want to get in and we want to serve our customers in an omni-channel type of experience, and we want to have the tools and resources and the platforms to make it happen. From doing research here at ICMI, we know, though, that the number one thing that's going to motivate a company to invest in any new technology is lower costs. Number one thing is lower costs. So then my question for each one of the experts here today is, how would a customer experience platform ultimately improve efficiencies for my center? How could it increase customer satisfaction? How could it drive revenue? Kind of all of those things that help me show lowered or improved costs. Sheila, I'll start with you.
So I'm going to start with lower cost. And very often in the contact center, that's seen as a negative, right? Lower cost means I'm cutting down on agents and I'm not making as many agents available. People are going to be on hold. But I think the best way to one of the ways to lower costs is using proactive communications, right? So what does that mean? Customers only call us because they need to know something that we know that we haven't told them yet, right? Or they have broken something and they want to tell us about it and get it fixed. But if there's something that a company knows that its customers need to understand, we can proactively tell them, and then they don't have to come in and call us and ask us. Great example is I live in New Hampshire. Power is very often strung on lines from pole to pole to pole. It's really tricky in the icy and snowy times of the year. We have a lot of power outages. And so electricity goes down and internet goes down. But what doesn't go down typically is the cell towers. And so my utility company does a great job of putting information out on Twitter and asking for information on Twitter. So first what they'll do is tell us what the outage is. They'll tell us what their mean time to repair is. They'll tell us, there's a list where you can look at for your town, how many people are still out in your town. So proactive communications, is a great way to avoid the cost of handling live calls, but also give your customers information more quickly and proactively and really get that kind of wow experience for the customers. So that's on the lower cost. Drive revenue is obviously just as important. It's not just about avoiding costs. It's about bringing in net new revenue to the business. There's a recent Harvard Business Review article that really, stayed with me. And the name of the article was Half-Life of a Lead, okay? So let's say I'm on a website or anybody's on a website and they leave something in a shopping cart, right? So that's a well-known thing that happens. If a company or on any kind of a lead like that gets back to the customer within the first hour, chances are 50% that they can turn that lead into revenue. Beyond an hour, the chances of turning that into a lead decline precipitously and very quickly. This was brought home to me this week. I had a first cousin who had an operation, and I was going to send her some flowers. And I got distracted, but within 30 minutes, the flower company came back to me and said, aha, you left something in your shopping cart. Do you want us to make that delivery? And it reminded me, and I went back and I closed the deal. So there's two things here, lowering cost via proactive communications, telling customers what we already know that gives them better service and keeps them from having to call us, and obviously driving revenue by proactively keeping track of what our customers are doing and reacting to it.
Great. So a number of really powerful ideas there focused on how we can drive revenue when we get that right lead in and qualify and contact them with a quicker turnaround time, looking at how we improve efficiency in supporting those other channels. And really the one thing I think about is if we know something and we need to help our customers, why don't we just do that, right? Why don't we just help them fill that need? Chris, what are some other thoughts on some benefits and ways that a platform can improve in the context?
So first off, there's a tip sheet on our website titled Building the Business Case for Omnichannel CX, and it does a great job laying out the metrics available that talk to operational efficiency, customer satisfaction, and revenue. They can be directly linked. But the big rocks are what you'd expect by consistently personalizing engagement, leveraging proactive communications to deflect inbound communications, being able to blend interactions to improve utilization, and then by tracking customer journeys and context and empowering agents with that. All of these are going to result in reduced handle times, improved first contact resolution, et cetera.
Great. Thank you, Chris. And Ann, what are your thoughts?
I apologize, I was on mute. Just building on what Chris said about improving utilization, you can have team members who can do multiple things, and then that helps you. So they can answer a chat, they can take an outbound call if you're not getting inbound calls. They can answer an email, and you can set priorities of what your timestamp is, how long you want anything to wait. So it really, and by improving that utilization, you also don't burn out your agents as much because you can limit how much they're on a phone call versus maybe doing some other types of communication.
Great. Thank you for that advice, Ann, as well. So I want to ask one more question of the panel, and then I actually want to hear, Chris, some more thoughts from you on this topic as well. So my last question, though, for the panel is, maybe somebody's sitting on this webinar right now, and they heard some of the stats that it's getting more complex. We're bringing more channels. Customer expectations are changing, that they're not satisfied with the experiences that they're having. We've heard a little bit about how some centers have seen that improved, and you shared some ways that you provided those better experiences. And we also heard how technology can kind of be the enabler to providing these experiences. So that being said, some people may still be on this webinar thinking that, I'm really skeptical about whether or not it's actually important for me to deliver an omnichannel experience. And so as you're kind of closing bits of wisdom, what would you say to those people? Chris, I'll begin with you.
Yeah, so look at how fast technology and customer expectations have changed in just the past decade. So we're on that rightmost edge of the hockey stick, and the rate of change is only accelerating from here. Customers, most all, have a smartphone in their pocket. It makes it easy for them to engage with your company on all of the available channels, whether that's voice in the IVR and contact center, or email, chat, or SMS, or video. Going forward, that's likely to include newer technologies like using beacons for micro-location tracking for promotions or to guide customers within a facility, or using Internet of Things connectivity to transform CX with smarter products. But the nut of it is these smartphones are providing an infinite amount of information right at the customer's fingertips, and they're making customers both better informed and less loyal. But these smartphones also enable you to take a personalized omnichannel strategy, so communicating with customers as individuals rather than with a mass market one-size-fits-all approach. They help you reach customers in context of who they are, where they've been, and what they need, and that's not something that's been readily possible before in a voice and analog world. Customers have certainly proven receptive to companies that are engaging with them on mobile channels via apps and location marketing and personalized offers and offering self-service and so forth. So we're living in a switching economy. Omnichannel is the new normal for customer expectations. An Accenture study from this year identified that 2/3 of customers switch providers in at least one industry each year due to poor customer service, and that 80% of the time the company could have done something about it to keep them. the associated global revenue on the table is $6.2 trillion. There's a quote I love from General Eric Shinseki. It says that if you don't like change, you're going to like irrelevance even less. So, parting thought, innovating the customer experience is one of the greatest sustainable sources of competitive advantage available. And to see the impact, just look at the companies we all love that are constantly embracing change and disrupting to deliver great experience, from Apple to Google to Amazon and Uber. Their value is being driven by disrupting that status quo to deliver great experience, and that same opportunity is available to all of us to deliver a better experience than your competition. It's simply a question of not being satisfied with the status quo. So the technology is here to stay, and as customers are increasingly moving into digital and self-service, it's up to us to meet customers where they are.
Great bits of wisdom there, Chris. And just yesterday, I heard someone say that really customer service is the new marketing. Right? The products, prices can be duplicated, but it's that service, it's that experience that really is going to enable organizations to stand out. Sheila, what is your maybe kind of closing bit of wisdom for the skeptics?
So I think, I've been around. I'm a boomer. I own up to it. In fact, my birthday's today, and I've been around a while. And many in my generation who are running a lot of the contact centers out there believe that voice is still the most important channel. And, as much as they understand that email and chat and SMS are being used, at the end of the day, they say when customers need us, they're going to pick up the phone. And that may be true. And it may be that some of us in the industry, and Justin, you're probably as guilty as I am and some of the others on the phone, we perhaps were talking about multi-channel 15 years ago when the amount of interaction traffic wasn't really there to support all these solutions. But we have definitely crossed that chasm. The market has crossed that chasm. Data shows that digital interactions are half of customer interactions now in 2015. And so this notion that voice is still the most important channel, nobody's talking about getting rid of voice, but we have to give equal say to the other channels as well, and we need to inform voice with the other channels. So that's my parting wisdom. Voice is still important, not saying it's not, but we have to do a much better job of the digital interactions.
Well said, Sheila. And what's your closing bit of wisdom here?
Make your life easier. When you put it all together, to manage your contact center, it will be so much easier for you.
Awesome. Thank you, Anne. So, Chris, I want to turn things over to you for a little bit because I know this is something that Genesys does, and would love to just learn a bit more about how does Genesys put these things together to provide this great customer experience platform.
Sure. Thanks, Justin. So let me get to the right slide here. So here are a few wrap-up slides to clarify how Genesys can help. We talked earlier about evaluation criteria for CX platform to enable delivering omnichannel experiences. Here's how I'd like to summarize those. First is a single integrated platform, so you don't have to expend effort integrating channels to capture and manage omnichannel context. Second is a single routing engine with a universal queue to support that interaction blending across channels and locations, while also ensuring SLAs are consistently met across channels. Third is the ability to manage customer context, to segment handling based on value and a personalized service delivery. Fourth, you want to ensure the platform delivers the ability to track, orchestrate, and optimize customer journeys to reduce effort and help them reach their goals. And the last criteria is to ensure there's a single desktop providing omnichannel context to agents to set them up for success. So Genesys has developed a customer experience platform specifically to deliver on these omnichannel customer engagement requirements and to help you implement a system of engagement that's orchestrating the people, the processes, and the technology needed to deliver consistent and proactive service to customers independent of their preferred channels. So here's a quick summary view into what we see customers doing as they progress towards omnichannel digital customer engagement. So looking at the evolution of call centers into customer engagement centers, there really are three significant transitions that occur. At a high level, there's first the shift from queues to more personalized engagement across multiple channels. Then there's the adoption of orchestration that enables consistent omnichannel service delivery and the multimodal engagement we discussed. And finally, there's the shift from random to designed customer journeys, where you're able to proactively monitor and guide customers as they work to achieve their goals. So taking a step back to look at it from an operational perspective, here's a view of orchestrated customer engagement in action, where at a high level the process is to collect, engage, and optimize the customer experience over time. Now, this process naturally starts with the collecting customer information and interactions across channels, then analyzing it in real time to understand customer behavior and intent, the customer profile and opportunities. And this is where the orchestration leverages that customer context along with business rules to determine best handling for each interaction. And the final step is to regularly analyze those outcomes against the customer engagement logic that drove the result, looking for actionable insights that can be used to then optimize future customer engagement. And this really creates a closed loop for customer engagement optimization, where different strategies can be continuously tested and the winning strategies deployed more broadly. So the result is a more personalized, relevant, consistent, and low-effort response to customer interactions when that engagement strategy is implemented. So here's a quick view of the Omnichannel agent desktop that Genesys provides, where the phrase "knowledge is power" really applies. So with the customer profile and interaction history collected from across channels, we can then make this context directly available to agents so they can better address customer needs on first contact. And here we can see an example of this view showing the timeline of active journeys at the top, and then drill down on the selected journey on the right, for example, a loan selection process, where the customer has responded to a campaign offer, they've requested a callback to follow up on that offer, and then also run a loan calculator on the website to check rates and payments for the loan. So the agent following up on this opportunity has all of the existing information they need in hand to help with get this customer into and through the application process without having to hunt across multiple applications to get the necessary context. So in terms of results, here are some of the typical examples based on before and after benchmark work we've done with customers. So these are the kind of metrics we expect to see improving dramatically based on taking a holistic omni-channel approach. Things like a 20% improvement in first contact resolution and 30% reduction in call transfers by using customer intent, journey history, and agent context to match them with the best fit resources for their needs. A 44-second reduction in call handle times and 6% improvement in agent engagement by arming agents up front with the tools and information they need to solve the customer's problem the first time. And a 10% improvement in customer satisfaction by predicting their intent and offering low-effort solutions, both self-service and assisted. And then a 10% improvement in agent utilization by effectively blending across channels and locations. So all of these can be linked back to revenue and operational efficiency to inform the business case and help overcome organizational resistance to change. So as a parting suggestion on next steps, here are 4 areas we've discussed that make sense as initial areas of focus to get started in this transition to omnichannel. You can start by empowering agents by consolidating customer context and actionable interaction history from across channels, both digital and voice, into a single unified desktop and adding knowledge management, proactive guidance, et cetera. Next, given customer preferences to self-service when offered, you should really invest in delivering consistent web, voice, mobile app, and knowledge management self-service options to both reduce the load on your contact center and enable customers to use their channel of choice. Now, these last two go hand in hand, which is to think beyond just managing each interaction as an isolated event to orchestrating the experience in context of that end-to-end journey. And this is an area with huge opportunity for innovation to exceed customer expectations. Once we recognize the value of that omni-channel customer data we have available, we can track it and drive insights that let us improve both the CX and the company's operational efficiency. Also, more information is available on the Genesys website, such as that tip sheet I mentioned earlier on building a business case for omnichannel CX. So I encourage you to check those resources out. And with that, Justin and Erica, I'd like to hand it back to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Chris. I also want to thank you, Ann, Sheila, and Justin. Wow, so much great information shared today. So I hope you guys enjoyed it and learned as much as I know I did. Unfortunately, we are running a bit low on time, and I did see a couple of audience questions come in. So I want to let you know that we're going to be sure to follow up with each of you individually and make sure that your questions are answered offline. You should have just seen a link pop up for a survey. It's just a few questions, and we'd really appreciate it if you take just 2 moments to fill that out. It will help us to tailor future presentations. But unfortunately, we are out of time today. So I just want to thank you all for attending. Again, look for some follow-up offline to answer the questions that we did have left in the audience queue. Don't forget you can download a PDF version of our slides directly through the console shortly after we wrap up. And also want to let you know that you will be receiving an email in the next couple of days that will give you directions to listen to the recording of today's presentation. Before we go, I do need to mention that this presentation is copyright 2015 by ICMI. The presentation materials are owned by or copyrighted by ICMI, which is solely responsible for its content, and Genesis is responsible for their content and opinions. On behalf of ICMI, our speakers, and our sponsor, Genesis, thank you for attending today, and hope you have a great day.